So something that needs to be stated in the video part of this. This is not an endorsement of any particular video editor. Everything that's shown in this can be done in most of the modern editors, whether Adobe, Movavi, whoever, have most all of these features. They might be called something different or put in different locations, but they all have this, at least this level of functionality. So this isn't a particular endorsement of this particular software. This is just what I familiarized myself with quickly, because before March of this year, I'd never edited a video, and suddenly had a need to be editing 2 to 3 hour videos every week. So this is what I came up with. So I'm going to use, I'm dragging and dropping the video file from the May Western States Connect, and you can see it's loading it in right here. We have the video and audio on here, and you can also, you can have multiple, well, it's not showing it right now because I don't have, but you can have multiple layers of video and audio top to bottom. When it's all said and done, this project, what you're working on here, isn't actually editing the source video. It's creating a set of instructions or script for this video editor to use to transform that starting video into what you want. So any editing here doesn't actually change the source video at all. This just creates a script for this to follow for when you go to export the video that you want. So the first thing that I do when I'm going through this, you drag the video file in, you right click on it, get file information, width and height. This is essentially a 4K video. Ironically, it used to be the 720 and 1080s are identified by the height number, the number on the right, but when to be flashy, they made 4K be around the number on the left, so it's close to 4,000, so that's how you know. But 4K video is very, if we were to go through and edit this 3-hour video, as it says down here, project length, 3-hour video, and start chopping it up and putting effects on it and things, it would bog down the computer pretty bad, and the computer would have a hard time keeping up with it. You can do 4K videos on a smaller scale, but 3-hour video is a bit big for anything other than a major video workstation. So all you got to do is hit export, and right here is all your settings. You can pick different video formats. I just stick with MP4, which is very common. YouTube can take it straight in. Anything can pretty much take it straight in at the moment. Advanced, pick my resolution I want to go to. This is fine for 720. 720p is DVD quality. That's fine for most YouTube uploading. Don't really need to go too much better than that. And then you just hit start, and it just starts exporting. So I'm not actually going to let it run all the way through, but you can see that this video right here, 3-hour video going from 4K to 720 on this computer, is going to run about 52 minutes. So it's something good to set up and walk away from if you have a big video. But like I said, this is a 3-hour video at 4K, so it would take it a while to run through all of those frames and export that. So I do already have this one in 720 for ease of editing. So I'd already run through this. So the next thing I go through, and this being a 3-hour video, is obviously go through and find the divisions, like where the different sections are. And I still have it thinking. There it goes. And you can see that this has a gallery view going. So obviously we're going to be killing that in a moment. But figuring out where in this, how many videos that this is going to create, what sections this is going to be. The section that we're going to work on is actually the first speaker of this, which starts around minute 6, I believe. And you can see here's the time that you're actually on. Click over here, click here. Let's play.
Ashley to go first. So, Ashley, yeah.
Okay, no. Let's move it over a little bit more. Play.
For
no, she's already speaking.
One facility.
So let's go back a little bit.
With Ashley W. from
That's about where we
Seattle,
want it.
We have 2 speakers on the first on that first topic. I'm going to start with Ashley W. from.
Okay, so he said start with Ashley about 6:07. That's fine. There we go. Try that again.
Start with Ashley W.
Let's go 6. So 3.
speakers on the first on that first topic.
Okay. So that looks to be about where we want to split it. So I right click on this and split. This is going to be one of the most common things you do on any video is split. So what happens is now I can edit this or delete this or do whatever I want with this part and this part independent of each other. So I don't really care about this part. I'll end up deleting it because this is just all intro and just this ended up being nothing. So I'm going to delete that, get it out of the way. But if we go back here, obviously we can't leave this gallery here.
You're unmuted.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm an addict.
So we're going to want to find if she does any screen sharing. Yeah, she has screen sharing.
So everybody start panels.
Well, let's find the end of her thing.
Virtually via Zoom. 1 week the group is in, and one can leave credit invite to main and create an artist to Matt due to their plans 2 weeks ago.
Okay, keep going, keep going.
I'm going to stop there in case there's any questions I can answer, but I will also put the link to.
And this time I'm watching the time here, so pay attention for when she stops talking.
The chat, and then
so I can go back to it and use that as a split point. So 10:18 looks like.
Excuse me.
Pause. And let's move it to 10:18. I can scale. If you change the scale down here, you can. And like I said, most video editors, right? Most modern video editors have all these same features, just laid out a little bit different. Call it maybe put in a different place. So I'm trying to get to about 10:18 on the timeline, and then I'll test it to make sure it's about right. Silent. Okay, so that's after she's done talking. 10:18. Right click. Split. Okay, so now I have this whole section I know is going to be a video. I know it needs to be chopped up a bit. I can see that on the top right corner there's part of a gallery view that I'm going to have to do something about. It looks like some of these can be cropped directly, but it also, I think there's a few of these slides that, well, actually we can crop all of it. I don't have to worry about just blurring those. Sometimes you run into where the share screen overlaps a gallery view in the upper corner, and you need to add a blur to the upper corner without actually cropping the share screen. So now we need to split this clip up so we can do different things to different parts of it. Because if I were to just add, if you click on this on more, this is where I find the highlight and conceal. This is where I get my masking and conceal. So you see it sets that up. I can move it wherever I want. Do that. So if we weren't cropping it and I was just covering up that corner, I could do that. But the problem is that runs across the entire clip, or at least this section. Being split, it doesn't touch this part, but it touches all of this. So that's not what we want to do. First, we need to actually find what we want, or divide this into the sections for the different effects. Like we need to actually delete this gallery view out or blur it. You can do it either way. You could do actually a full screen. If you wanted to leave the gallery in there, you could go full screen with it, and you can adjust the size of the pixels. So it can be whatever you want. More commonly, what I'll do with a gallery view is I will find the dividing point for it and just delete that part of the video. So when I find how close, like where it's really close to switching over, I'll go frame by frame to find where it actually divides, where it actually switches from one view to the next. And with this, I believe it's Control Plus. All video editors have some kind of shortcut for going frame by frame. I have a scroll wheel I use that does the shortcut for me, but you can do a keyboard shortcut to go frame by frame, and you can see on the timeline, around the time under the preview, that it's actually changing by a fraction of a second. So I find it very important to actually get it down to the right frame, because you don't want there to be a single frame of all these faces out there that you missed. 34, 34, 8. 38. Back it up to, here we go. That makes it even easier. You don't always get a blank screen that makes an easy divide, but there, I just split. Actually, I'll undo that. Right click, split. Like I said, splitting is what you're going to do the most, because it lets you separate out parts of the video and audio that you want to do specific masking or effects with. Like if on this part I want cropped part, well, we'll get to that. But so for this, we don't want to lose the audio, but we do want to get rid of the video. So you have to right click on it and detach audio. Now these two can actually be moved independent of each other. So what I commonly do for gallery views is I'll drag in the logo of the event or just some basic NA imagery. You can see I've got stuff right here. So which one was this event? Do I have it in here? Yeah, it was this one. So I'll just drag this image over here. Put, you don't want to do that here. There we go. Just drag a little bit so it has some duration to it. Then I just move the audio over so it syncs up to the beginning of this. Because if the audio was still synced up to that, if I delete this, it'll still take the audio with it, even though they're detached. So I'll undo that. So I move the replacement image back over into it. I sync the audio up with it. Now I can delete this, no problem. But you see that these two audio lines are over top of each other. So if we play this from here, the audio will actually start overlapping.
And so we've kind of been rolling it out gradually. We've learned a lot, trial and error as we go. And so I'm going to try to be succinct and kind of share a process of how we got to. Okay, so the first thing I will say.
So when you're creating this project and doing the editing, this, when it goes to export, it literally will just read left to right. And everything that's happening across that line as it's reading left to right is what it's going to do. So these are over top of each other. Well, I got to extend this out so they're not over top of each other. And then I'll zoom in the scale a little bit so that we don't have that gap in the audio. So now hit play just to test.
Okay, so the first thing I will say.
Perfect. Go back just to make sure.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll kill that little piece of audio where someone's talking about sharing screen, stuff like that.
That really helped us get this.
But you see how I replaced the gallery view with that. Sometimes I'll take and add in more than one view and go back and forth, and you can put transitions in there. I'll go ahead and show a piece of that. So if I shorten this up, let's make that long. Let's just use this image just for the heck of it. Put it in there, zoom that out. Let's put the other one back in to follow it. Boom. Okay. Scale in to make sure that the audio is not overlapping. There we go. So now, without any transitions in here.
I haven't tried to share my screen yet, but anyway, so we have been running Zoom panels in our facilities that we already
So
have
just switch the image.
With.
To add transitions into this part, click transitions. Again, almost all, if not all, video editors have some form of transitions. I'm just going to grab, that's a simple one, Shatter. It'll show me an example of it. I just drag this down in between those two, and now there's a little marker there that shows transition, and it shows what kind it is. I'll grab another transition here, just drag it in there, and let's do a simple fade for this one. Now, something that's very important, especially when you're replacing gallery views, is keeping in mind that, again, the original source video is still here. You just can't see it. This has given it instructions to not play that video, but to play these images this way. So the source video is still there. What I ran into sometimes, and it's not doing it this time, but what I ran into sometimes is when you right click on these transitions, transition properties, you have fill transition with trimmed content, freeze frame, slow motion. I hit freeze, I do freeze frame and then apply to all transitions, so they all do that. because I ran into one of these videos that I took the gallery out of. It was using gallery images as part of the trimmed video to put into that transition. So I was ending up with people's faces in the middle of a transition. And now I just, on all transitions, just transition properties, pick freeze frame, which will be it'll just transition strictly between the last frame and first frame, nothing extra thrown in. And then you hit apply to all transitions. Okay, now all the transitions will behave that way. So we see how simple it is to add a transition to these and go back and forth between images, replace gallery views. So this is something that I have to do even on blank screens, even if there's not a gallery view, like with the LGBTQ plus video that I'm working on, there's blank spaces that I have to add in during speakers when there's no shared view and there's no gallery view, so it's just a blank screen. So I take and just go back and forth between these with different transitions. So that's one common thing that you have to do. Now over here for the actual anonymizing, we can see that we can crop this part of the screen fairly easy and get what we want. Let's go through this to see if there's anything different. Can we get away with cropping it and that be it? Or does the screen change to where we might want to do something else? I just keep clicking through, just trying to see a different preview. So far, that middle screen seems to be solid. Oh, nope, right there. If I just ran a crop for this entire section, we're going to lose part of both sides of this. So we got to find where that switches to where we can't use the same effect. So it looks to be actually right about there.
Yeah, you can kind of see it on the bottom where it moves to a bigger thing. Is that pretty reliable to look at it that way, or do you want to be careful?
Yes and no, it gives you an idea of, but it's not exactly like right here isn't exactly when you're going to get this screen. It's close, it gives you an idea of that, but see, like in the middle of this, I'm already into the next screen. And it's still partway into this image right here. So it gives you an idea of what to expect in the background there, but it's not 100%. It gives you just look close to this point. So, right, we'll just use that as our cut point. So I'm going to split the clip there. Right click, split. So I know this part, I can just crop this middle part down and be okay. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I'm gonna have to split this one because this section, it's giving an example of a Google Drive. This section shows the first slide for over here. So it's not exactly the same cropping. I mean, you could crop to the same thing and you can see the preview here. I'm just gonna go ahead and split it again. Let's see. Let's get one more. Split there. So here, we're just going to crop. On this, cropping is right there. You can see my mouse. Crop. And we are going to just get this section. And we don't care about all the rest of the tabs she has at the top of the screen. So, okay. So now, let's just show what this does. Okay, fade. That should do a fade transition, fade in, and you see here's what it's cropped in.
Really
so it's only showing what was inside that crop box.
Was that we already had a PR.
And then if we go ahead to here,
and one person,
you'll see that the cropping ends at this split.
Who does the muting, the screen share.
So anything that you do on any of these split sections only affects that section. That's why you end up having to break these into multiple little sections. So if there's something different that has to happen, if you have a face that goes from here to here, and I'll show you that on the next video, or you go back and forth between faces, you have to do a lot of splits to put the masks where you want them or to do different effects as needed. So on this part, we just wanted to crop this middle section just so it just goes right into the screen. Let's crop. There's other ways of doing this too. Could have just replaced this whole section with that first slide that's coming up, but this is actually a quick, dirty way of doing it. Okay, so now let's hit play just to see the preview.
That it was smart to have one person be the panel leader and one person be the tech host who does the muting, the screen
You see,
sharing.
it's showing the crop. It is blurry because it was
if somebody gets locked
a
out
much
or
smaller
something
portion,
or something's
but
going on,
the crop is working
so
just
the
fine.
panel leader can,
So we're done with that part. Let's go into this. This, now we either need to crop a bigger section or blur the edge. We should be able to get away with cropping the bigger section, no problem, but let's see if there's another divide. Before I do any effect on a section, I look to see if there's another divide needed. Because if I do an effect on here and then I divide it, the effect exists on both splits, and I'll have to delete the effect off the other split. So looks like we're good, good. That's fine. And oh, yeah, that does change. Okay, so there's a couple more divides. So we want to get to the edge of where it's a bigger screen. Pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, that looks to be where we want to split it. Right click, split. So now we do the crop that we want here, which is just the blue section, because we can't have the faces in the corner. Now, again, you could just apply a conceal, whether blur, pixelation, whatever you want, to the corner, but it makes as much or more sense to crop this section. So when we hit play,
like show here. So let me, I'll do it.
goes from the blurry version, loading.
When we're running the panel,
There.
the
It's cropped.
panel leader usually has this open on the feed.
So this section, it looks like we want to go back to cropping that middle piece.
Thank you for listening and all of that.
And let's find the next divide.
But I would strongly
Yeah, I was going to say, you can already see the gallery view at the end of that. So there is going to be a divide somewhere.
Yep. And then this goes into another example of a Zoom sign-in. So we're going to want to divide because this is going to be a different level of crop. Oops, back it up. This part I'm not as particular on being frame by frame because it's not blocking faces. The parts where it's face, where faces are going on, I'm much more careful about actually being frame by frame. Split, okay, crop. We're just going to grab that middle slide piece. And again, this one you don't really have to crop. You just have to make sure that there's no names showing up here and the faces up there weren't showing, but cropping just is the easy way for that. Over here, I don't want to do a crop right now. I want to get it off there. I just click color adjustments, just something to get it off cropping. If you click crop or any of these other effects, it shows you a preview, but if you don't touch it, it's not doing it. So I click color adjustments just so I don't accidentally engage a cropping effect there. So here, must have clicked it when I was giving the example, but so let's get off cropping there. Okay, that's accurate. And we got to find if there's another divide, which as you pointed out, you can see there's a gap. There's the gallery. And you can see, like I said, it's not 100% accurate. You see the first time you see the gallery's over here, but we're in the middle of this picture here. So it's just approximate. So this part, I'm going to want to make sure that I get the last, I'm going to the right, finding the frame where it splits. Oh, there it is. Go back to the left. And I'm going to split on the first time I see this. So I guarantee that I get all the gallery out of it. Okay, split. I'm going to detach audio. And let's pull the image back in there. This one, I'm going to put it right there. Move the audio over to sync with it. Slide over. And delete this video. I'm going to add a transition. Just simple fade to black. So it'll fade in, fade out. Right click on that. Transition property, freeze frame. When you do the apply to all transitions, if you add a new transition after that, it doesn't apply to that transition. So we've already done it to the other ones. I got to do it to this one. So that, now that I've done all that, I can scale out. You can see what it took to essentially anonymize that first section. If I hit delete on all the rest of this, and usually what I'll do is I'll save the project as I go as one big file, and I'll chop up each section just like that. And then when I go I'll do all the exporting when it's all said and done. And when I go to export this first section, I'll take and delete all the other sections after it, like that. Hit export. I'm just going to leave it as new project, hit start, and see it's flowing right along. It's exporting this. Exactly what we just did. Here, it's creating the video for it. I'll actually let it run through since it's going quickly enough. You can see I'm working on this one right now. I got working on that last night, actually. This is almost done. Okay. Open with, I use VLC
I'm
for
going
my
to start
player.
with Ashley W. from Seattle. You're unmuted.
Hi, I'm not sure if I'm able in our
You
facility.
can see it just did the transition. It's running the image right there that we did.
For error as we
Trying to get in the room, so she might have to do it.
And then the
I
transition.
think people are trying to get in.
for over a year before this happened. We have a little, we need as a HNI.
Sometimes, depending on how the quality is or how high a resolution of an image, you can see kind of a personal image in the upper corner. That's not near identifiable enough for me to worry about, but there has been some people's pictures and faces on profiles that I've had to blur out. I had to watch for, which gets to be a pain if they scroll around the screen and that profile pic moves around. So you have to catch that or do a long blur. But here's the video that we just did.
Getting reimbursed for that because it's so late to review only.
Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll undo my deleting the section, then I'll go through and delete this part and then every other part that I'm not exporting up. So basically, as I listed in my email routine, I'll go through and delete every section that I'm not exporting and hit export. So I do all the work on the front end, chopping everything up, getting it all ready, and then delete sections out so that I can export one section at a time and then just undelete or reload the main project. So when you save a project file, it's not actually saving these video clips, it's saving references to this image goes here for this duration, has this transition between it and the next image. It's a script, it's a list of instructions on what to do to the media that's involved.